This is the final video on transformation, power to change, steps toward renewing our mind. The series Transformation, Power to Change continues as we go into many more subjects pertaining to transformation, the power to change. Our text from the book of Romans: be ye transformed by renewing of the mind. Be ye transformed by renewing of your mind. But prior to that, the verse is, and be not transformed to this world, but be ye transformed. So you have to begin with nonconformity, and then you wanna end up. You begin with nonconformity over here, and then you move from nonconformity to transformity, and then to mental renewal. That's kind of how the progression moves. This is the y-axis, and this is our x-axis. And as you can see from our towers, you begin with 100% nonconformity, if you can ever reach that level, because this is where most of us are. We call it the collective mind. You move from that to transformity. Transformity begins to rise, and mental renewal begins to rise. So as nonconformity decreases here, the individual or transformity increases, but it also decreases in proportion to nonconformity, and as you can see, the growth of mental renewal, and ultimately leading to 100% mental renewal. And I think that that's a very difficult feat for any of us to make, even though if we can reduce, you can see the arrows going down, our conformity to the world, certainly mental renewal can go up. That's kind of the pyramid that we're using, that we're working from. But we're saying, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed. What does that mean? That means that, and we call it steps. That means that we have to come out of the world. Come out of the world. That's not easy to do, primarily because the world captivates, it attracts, it pulls us in, both with all of its advertisement and its enticements for what we consider pleasurable and good. But if you really want to know what prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God, which is where we're going to focus this video, what is the good will of God? What is the acceptable will of God? What is the perfect will of God? And that's where we want to focus today. The good will of God clearly is love and service. So if we come over here, if we put our marker here, love becomes critical to anything that we're going to do. Jesus' commandment, his final commandment to his disciples, was that they love one another. We call it the 11th commandment. So love is supreme. And we're not talking about any love. We're talking about agape, A-G-A-P-A. Agape love. That means love in spite of, love, unconditional love. So the idea that Jesus left with us was that we had to love one another. So the good will of God is that we love one another. That's the beginning point. The second good will of God is that we serve one another. And again, Jesus said that you do it to the least of these, you do it unto me. That you don't do it to the least of these, you don't do it unto me. He was talking about when I was hungry, when I needed food, when I needed shelter. If you provided it, you did it for me. If you didn't provide it, you didn't provide it for me. So you can't love me and don't provide love and service to those who are less fortunate, those who are the least of these. And then, of course, the perfect will of God is that we become His own. The perfect will of God is that we surrender our life to Him. That we surrender our life. That's the perfect will of God. So if we love, if we serve, if we surrender our life to Him, there's no doubt in my mind that our minds will be renewed and we will reach this tower of power right here. First, we have to come out of the world. And by coming out of the world, we simply mean not physically coming out of the world, but mentally coming out of the world, focusing on things that are of God: love, service, kindness, mercy, charity, forgiveness. These are all things that are of God. And once we renew our mind, we are able, once our mind is renewed, here, we're able to prove what the perfect will of God is by the things that we do that are good, that are acceptable, that are the perfect will of God. And of course, the big issue for as we end this series is we have to seek the perfect will of God. How do we do that? You've heard it, perfect will of God. You've heard me say it many times. How do we do that? Prayer plus meditation. These are tools. These are all just tools for us to step up and renew our mind and receive the perfect will of God. As you can see on the x-axis, we move from non-conformity to the world to a mental renewing of our mind. And as we move horizontally, we move up vertically toward the perfect will of God. We'll continue with our transformation, the power to change, as our series continues.